What do a torn ankle, 30 failed healing methods, and a tech-savvy healer have in common? Well, they sparked a soul-led journey that's quietly revolutionizing how we heal. Today, here on From Wounds to Wisdom, you'll meet Alenka Kyslik. She's a woman who turned pain into a purpose-driven platform connecting people to the healing they actually need. If you've ever felt dismissed, disillusioned, or desperate for answers, this episode is your sign. Let's dive in.
A few years ago, I stepped off a curb and tore my ankle to shreds. There was a golf ball size swelling within minutes, and I went to urgent care and, they pulled out a wheelchair because they were like, that looks really bad. I did everything I was told to do. I followed all the doctor's orders, and I kept on re-injuring myself for 7 months, every few weeks, and nobody had an explanation for why. And at some point I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to figure out what's going on. My background is in the video game space and aerospace industry, bringing ideas to life. It blows my mind that we can book a rental for a vacation home on the other side of the world with really specific, I want this size bed, I want dishwasher, I want a crib, etc. But you can't do anything like that for your health. It doesn't exist.
This is From Wounds to Wisdom with Barbie Moreno. Real talk, deep healing, and stories that turn pain into power. Let's dive in. Today on From Wounds to Wisdom, we're joined by Alenka Kyslik, recovering people pleaser, tech innovator, and health advocate. After years of battling with her own health issues and struggling to find answers, Alenka used her background in software to create a platform that connects people with holistic experts who align with their values. Her mission? To help others take back control of their health and their healing journey. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excited to have you here because when we spoke before, I thought it was very very cool for people to be able to go onto one platform to find what they're looking for versus just kind of hoping for referrals from, somebody else, or maybe an allopathic doctor that doesn't, believe in maybe holistic health or whatever the case may be. So I'd love to hear about what got you to go down this path.
Yeah. So, I feel like the more you start to heal and unlearn, the more you realize that, it was there all along. You just had no idea. I think what really started this whole process was a few years ago, I stepped off a curb and tore my ankle to shreds. There was a golf ball size swelling within minutes, and I went to urgent care and, they pulled out a wheelchair because they were like, that looks really bad. And I was like, yeah, female pain tolerance, it's bad, but I'm walking. Long story short, initially they said, oh, it's fine. If it's not painful, continue. I went to orthopedic surgeon. I pushed for an MRI. It came back. They said, don't put any weight on it for 3 months. And I was like, that's a very different, treatment plan than oh, you're okay.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I did everything I was told to do. I followed all the doctor's orders, and I kept on re-injuring myself for 7 months, every few weeks. I kept on re-tearing, and nobody had an explanation for why. And at some point I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to figure out what's going on. So I tried, at one point I wrote it down. It was over 30 different types of modalities and treatments to try to figure out what's going on, what's working. I mean, I'm lucky enough. I have a bit of a background in terms of, I just like learning about the human body. So I could go in and read PubMed articles and academic articles about different things. And I started to understand that there's more connection to pieces that I didn't think were connected than I realized, in combination with just holistic and alternative providers who are like, oh, did you think about this or that? I don't know, maybe you don't pay attention when you walk, and that's why you're prone to hurting yourself.
Right.
You're headed to the clouds all the time. So yeah, it was just years of basically being terrified to take a step and having to learn to advocate for myself. And I was like, it blows my mind that we can book a rental for a vacation home on the other side of the world with really specific, I want this size bed, I want dishwasher, I want a crib, etc. But you can't do anything like that for your health. It doesn't exist. And I was like, I cannot believe that that's not the case. So that's how I ended up building it myself.
So are you like a software background or an AI person or a computer? Like what was your background? Because like, I'm not building that.
Yeah, yeah, no, trust me, it's not easy, even if you know what you need. My background is in the video game space and aerospace industry, bringing like ideas to life from like concept all the way through. And I work with teams who do the development, but I work on like, hey, like, oh, this is a cool thing to do. Well, like, what does that mean? How do you actually build that?
Right.
And then I iterate. I feel like I'm in an interview, like a job interview. But yeah, like I'll then take like idea or concepts, and I work with whoever is involved, whether it's a client or an end user, and I make it come to life in a way that it makes sense and is usable.
Mm,
Yeah.
that seemed like a lot for my brain.
It's a lot for anyone's brain. Like I spent 3 hours today doing like a flow chart of like just how to like simplified login flows work. Like it's something that's not that interesting, but like you understand it from like a user perspective, right? That like, yeah, if I can use my fingerprint to sign into my banking app, for example, instead of having
Right.
to, people, it's just there's a lot of stuff that happens in the background that I enjoy doing that stuff. So yeah.
That's fun. So, one thing I enjoyed hearing about was that on your journey, you did cool stuff like I like energy healing.
Yeah.
Reiki and like, acupuncture and like all of those different things that say it's becoming more popular, but most people don't go down that path, right? They kind of just go with what their doctor says, they suck it up, they take pain medication, they cover the pain. So how did you get introduced to all of the non-traditional Western stuff and go into more like an Eastern medicine or more like a holistic health?
I think at some point, and if you've never been in this position, I'm so happy for you. When you're desperate, you try anything,
Hmm.
you know? I live in Los Angeles. I had access to a few things, but
Yeah.
it really started to kind of go down a rabbit hole when I would talk to people about, like, I don't know why this isn't working. And they're like, well, you could try. I have this friend, she does this type of healing. I have this friend who does like Rolfing was another one, which is more fascia and soft tissue. I have another friend who does body work. When I first started going to him, I understood about like 30% of what he was saying. And now I feel like I'm understanding maybe 50%. Like I've started to, it's just the language is very, these are concepts when you're not exposed to it, it's really hard to wrap your brain around. But yeah, I
Yeah. It
tried.
was like you talking 3 minutes ago.
Exactly. That
I
for
was
most,
like,
they were like, yeah, when you start getting exposed to it, you're like, oh, this makes sense. For some people talking about like emotional regulation and healing, those words mean nothing until you start to dive into it. And I feel a lot of these Eastern practices, it's really hard to wrap your brain around
right.
like certain like the channels in my body. And I can now feel when I get certain types of acupuncture done, I'm like, oh, I feel it in like the end of the channel in the top of my head and the bottom of my foot or in my hand. And people are like, that's wild. I'm like, yeah. And during my period, I feel the points even like it's like these wild, wild things that I never thought. But once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. And
Yeah.
once it starts to like help and benefit, it's just the like most powerful thing ever.
So we'll go into like your I don't know if it's an app or website. We'll talk about that. But what did you find worked, or was it a combination of things that worked best for you in that situation?
Nutrition was huge. One of my friends kept telling me, and I had like the hardest time and still do, learning to be present was another big one. And learning to let go and not trying to control all of everything, I think was really big. I think, and related to that, understanding how my mental and physical health are intertwined.
Hmm.
That touches, I think, a lot of different modalities, right? And a
Right.
lot of different types of hair. But those that really made a difference where I like now know I'm more likely to injure myself if I'm tired and
Yes.
stressed and I'm not paying attention to that. Like that makes a huge difference. But before I would be like, I'm fine. I'll just push through. But like I've now learned that it's not worth it.
Who would think that an injured ankle would then create this whole thing, right? Like, first of all, I'm sure many of people injured an ankle and didn't go down this path, right? So the right person injured her ankle and then it came down this path. So give us like, how does this work? Was it an app? Is it a website? What do I do? I have some emotional issue that's causing me to have gastric issues. Like, where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah, that's another one. That's a fun one when you realize that your stress in your digestive system,
Yep.
or yeah, it's wild. So basically, what we've done with the team that I've worked with is I defined we all know what an algorithm is in terms of our social media feeds, right? You watch a few cat videos, you get more cat videos. You watch a video about home decor, you get more home decor. So that, like, if we take that with a lot more complexity, then we have what I'm building right now. And so basically, the matchmaking is live. Anyone can go in and you can test and see. You can basically put in, it's a questionnaire, it takes about 2 minutes. It's things like your symptoms. This is pretty standard. What is not standard is where you at in your healing journey. So are you in a place where you just need relief? Are you ready to make changes? You need someone to help you and like hold your hand through the changes? Are you looking for guidance versus I can do this on my own? Those are all very different steps and very different modalities. I jokingly call it a woo-woo sliding scale. But like, what are you comfortable with, right? Like, are you like, I'm cool with like DNA testing and functional medicine, which is very different than like breath work and Reiki. There's a lot of stuff that fall in the middle. Where are you in terms of your shared lived experiences with your provider? Sometimes this is super relevant, right? Like if you're a mother and what you're going through is related to you being a mother, you want to talk to someone who is and who gets that, right? Same thing if you have a background in the military, or if you have a physical disability or a chronic injury, or have had, like, there's certain experiences that are related. These are optional questions. You don't have to fill them out. The other things that are also super relevant is what are your, in some cases, again, in some cases, it doesn't matter, right? I don't really care what my massage therapist, as an example, believes in terms of politics, religion, or ethnicity. But if I'm talking to like a mental health professional, I do care, like if they understand like my experiences, right? And so that's why we include those things. And it does make a difference in terms, the goal is you step into a room or a Zoom call or whatever with the provider. You don't have to justify why you're feeling this way. The person just gets it. Because unfortunately, that's a super rare feeling, but it is the most beautiful thing when you have it. And that's the goal of this platform is.
And there's nobody else who does that, because if I go on my, Anthem Blue Cross website, they're not asking me any of this stuff. They're just saying these doctors are taking patients, these ones aren't. You're going to pay 80% here, you're going to pay 20% there, blah, 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 blah. But nobody, you really, like, even I've looked up doctors on like Google just to kind of get like an idea of them, and there's literally nothing. Like you have no, like there's a couple reviews, some people hate them, some people love them, like, but there's never anything specific. So that's like neat. How do practitioners get matched to like people, like, or do you have like people who are enrolling? How do you, if so, like how do you screen them and make sure they're not cray cray? uh, and I'm specifically referring to the woo-woo world there. I mean, there's also cray cray, Western medicine, allopathic medicine, but the woo-woo world, which I'm in, we can come across some really interesting folks.
I think, well, and then there's folks who just are so in it that they can't keep a calendar.
Very normal in that world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which, like, good for you for being so present you forget about the rest of the world. But like we do a few things. So we have, like, anyone can apply to be a provider on the platform. That takes about 10 minutes. It can take longer depending on if you can copy and paste, your bio, for example, right? If you've already done it somewhere else. Right now, the way the free matchmaker, which exists right now, and we're building out the more comprehensive experience, everyone's listed on there. With the full version, we're going to have a peer review committee. So other providers are going to review providers as they come on the platform, because it's important that we have that. I'm not a holistic expert, and I'm not like, and like if you want someone who understands your version of whatever you do, right? Like someone who does Pilates is not going to be a good validator of someone who does Reiki, for example, right? So you need to have like a diverse committee to be able to do that validation. And then we're going to have ongoing reviews and feedback both ways, right? Because if you have a client that you're like, this person, I don't think is a good fit for this platform, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, then I get those the same way you do for like your Ubers and Airbnbs and whatever. You get feedback both ways, and then we monitor and have ways to be aware of what's going on. Because it's important for me. I think the integrity of the people we have on the platform is like the highest and most important thing. You want to be able to go there and trust that you're going to find good people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're building a whole system around that to make sure that that is the case.
So, does the user pay for access to these people? How does that work?
Basically, what we've built is the provider set their pricing, and there is a percentage fee that's given to the platform, right? So we're modeling right now at 18%. 2% of the total goes towards a fund that is for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford services.
Mm,
So we have a nonprofit arm as well, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the biggest ones is providers tend to discount their services
yeah.
for people who can't afford, and providers need to be able to have a quality of life. There's a whole, I believe very strongly in supporting the providers, because we take care of the people who take care of us, that they can show up for themselves in the world much
Yeah.
better. So
And
yeah,
in the holistic world, they almost always discount themselves. I've seen that my entire career in our world. Yeah.
yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know their worth. They'll always go, okay, don't worry about it. You can just pay me XYZ. And because people don't oftentimes respect that, in my opinion, they would negotiate with somebody like that versus trying to negotiate with an MD, right?
Well, believe it or not, insurance companies negotiate with MDs all the time
I know,
what
but they're
they pay.
crazy. We're not going to go down that route.
I know they're crazy. I'm just saying, like, they know that they can question that. We as like individuals don't understand that, and I'm not saying that's the right way to go. I actually don't accept insurance across the platform at all, because
That's what was my next question. So if
yeah.
that doctor accepts insurance, can they use it, or everybody has to just pay for the service? There's no insurance at all.
Right now, what we're doing is there's no insurance. The reason for that is the way insurance is structured. It doesn't allow the provider to actually give you the time of day that it takes to get the care that it required to like get better. We'll provide super bills. You can submit it to your insurance, right? These are all things that, like, if you have an insurance carrier who will cover it, that's wonderful. But
Mhm.
um, I've heard things from therapists, for example, where they get through some other platforms kind of that do these online booking systems, they get paid about $70 an hour. Blue Cross, they get 125, and private pay, they do 175 plus.
Yeah.
Those are huge discrepancies. And like, if you're doing a full day of clients at $75 an hour, that's not okay compared to, like, you can do maybe 2/3 of that, 75% of that at those higher rates. You're going to be there for your clients in a much better way, right?
Right, because you're not exhausted and you haven't, it's not like a constant, turn and burn, turn and burn, turn and burn. Because you
Yeah.
can't, I mean, if you're seeing 8 patients a day, you're not going to remember their story the next time you see them because you're going to be seeing, what is that, 40 patients a week.
Yeah. And like, that's not, let alone, like, you have to chart,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of like work that goes on outside of a session, and you need to take like, if you've just heard a horrible traumatic story, it's going to have an impact on you. You need some time to take care of yourself before you show up for the next patient, right? So
What a
yeah.
novel concept. What if hospitals actually did that, right? Their quality of care would just improve so much. I used to work in an emergency room. We worked 12-hour shifts. You almost never really actually got a break or actually got a lunch. You ate while you worked. And, we were not our best, right? We're not going to
Yeah.
be our best when you're working those. And it was always like 12 hours, and then you'd go back home for 8 hours and you go back for 12 hours. Like, you're just exhausted. You can't be your best.
No, you can't be your best. And we know what it feels like when someone is at their best and taking care of us. Like, that's why a lot in American healthcare, like, I'm originally from Canada. So American healthcare to me is just wild. But like, there's some people who are, they're working under a regular medical license, but their everything is out of pocket. Like, and you're talking like hundreds of dollars an hour, and they provide really amazing care because they can. I did the math with a friend of mine years ago, and she's a psychiatrist in Canada, and she's like, I make more in Canada than I do in the States. She's like, I would be getting paid $70 a session as a psychiatrist with a PhD. It's just wild.
It is wild. Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely something that needs to be worked on. And the sad thing is, in my opinion, is that I love your concept and your idea. And also, it seems like only people who can afford care get good care.
Yeah, it really breaks my heart, honestly, that shouldn't be the case. Part of what we're doing is we're offering this as a benefit for employers to offer their employees,
Mm,
because then it makes it more accessible for the average person. I see a world where, and I've done the math of this, we provide hundreds of free appointments a month for people. Once things are at a very different place, it means it makes it more accessible. I'm not saying it's as accessible as it should be,
right. Right.
but
You can't fix all the world problems, but you can make a a drop in the ocean and try your best.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So What else would you tell us about like your history behind this? Or I feel like there's a lot that went into this that, we don't necessarily know. I know you twisted your ankle, but there's all these other people who are coming together with you, right? Like my guess is you didn't build this on your own, that there's other people who had stories that wanted to come in and make this work too.
Yeah. I have found that most of the providers that I have on my platform they have gone through something, and the modality that helps them is the one that they are now sharing with the rest of the world. And
Mhm.
that's what they then train themselves up for to help other people's with. And how I'm building this is with a lot of intention. There's a lot of different ways to start a company. People are like, why don't you just do a nonprofit? I'm like, well, I want to be able to fund research and do things that you can't do, like with the limitations of a nonprofit, you can't do. I want to be able to say, hey, we have X thousands of acupuncturists, let's say, for the argument's sake, on the platform, they're seeing this common form of treatment. Let's put together academic research with top tier universities on how effective this is.
Mm.
Because a lot of the reason a lot of people say, oh, that woo woo thing or that alternative thing, they say like, well, there's no studies. I'm like, yeah, well, who's funding that? Right?
Right,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, you got the pharmaceutical companies and all that stuff funding that thing. They don't want you to get options.
yeah. So I'm like, this allows us to do that. And that for me is one of those things that it's not that far off to be able to build it once we get to a point. I think for me, it's just finding a way to build this that supports the providers, that makes everyone's life easier on both sides. So what is from like a systems and a software, we all have been on websites that are really like hard to use, and we've been on ones that are easy to use. Like for
Right.
me, that's my expertise that I put into it, is like, how do we make this as simple to use? We make sure it's safe and secure in terms of data and privacy, and following all of the standards, and then going above and beyond, because believe it or not, the US standards are pretty chill compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, no, I believe it. Yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for me, it's like getting providers, and I have providers on the platform from all over the world. You can, like, for a lot of these things aren't regulated, which has its pros and cons. But on the pro side, you can find someone in Australia, in the UK, who does the same type of treatment as someone in the US, and you'll get them for like a highly discounted rate just because of the way currencies, et cetera, work, right? In Canada, Canadian dollar right now is fluctuating, but it's between like 60 and 75 cents to the American dollar. And so
Mhm.
that's an automatic 25 to 40% discount
Right.
on your services, right? And so that's where we're like, how can we kind of give people more access to more care at a more affordable rate, even though, obviously therapy has more regulations. So we keep that in mind. It's just, how do I build those systems so you don't even have to think about that? You just show up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a person who understands me. Like that is the goal of a lot of the back end and the background. I think from a business perspective, I have done a lot of research on what it takes to bring a company to life and how you can do that, from like venture capital to other forms of raising money. I have found, for me, I don't want to do something that would sacrifice the integrity of what we're building for the
Yeah.
sake of, getting
Getting money.
money. And
Yeah.
so that, I think, is the hardest challenge. Because yeah, it would be easier. I have a friend who's like, I can introduce you to someone who'll give you $2 million. I'm like, that would be great. But I'm also like, at what cost? Right.
Mm.
And so I think that's a really interesting problem to solve for. I know it's probably you're not your audience, but for me, it's something I think about all the time, is
And
how
you
can
never know, right? Somebody could be listening. They're like, that's really cool. And I like, have interest in funding that, or I know somebody or whatever. I mean, it's always good to put it out there.
Yeah. So it's just like, I want to work with people, advisors, potential funders who understand the problem we're trying to solve for, and really get that this why it matters. But there's a couple of providers where I was like, I get that you want money, but you'll do it at any cost. And those aren't the types of providers I want on the platform.
Yeah,
Right.
I
So
agree.
so it's just like it's in many places, and it's learning to be more in tune with myself and my beliefs and what feels right. And that has been a whole other journey we didn't get
Right. I was going to say, I would imagine, like,
into.
again, it goes back to you hurt yourself and you went to a traditional, doctors and all that stuff. And then you go on this journey of this other world, right? This woo-woo holistic world and stuff. You're not just healing your ankle.
Nope. Nope.
You just become a whole different, like, ball of wax there. Like, it is, yeah.
Yeah, wild. I had a friend text me last night, and he was like, how are you doing? He's like, I feel like I've just uncovered so much more I need to like grow and learn from. I'm like, yeah, welcome to being alive. It's
Mm.
one of those beautiful things.
Kind of makes it feel like this is, might be out there for some people, but probably not my listeners. But it feels like almost like an evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's beautiful when you can embrace it. When you
Mhm.
fight it, that's when it becomes really difficult and infuriating. But
Mhm.
when you can embrace, like, you know what, this is not how I thought this was going to go. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. How do people find your platform?
The website is sahacollective.com. So that's SAHA collective.com.
Okay.
Then you can message me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, uh, or you can message me on LinkedIn, and we have a page there as well. It's
Okay.
just
Just
me
you.
responding to all of that. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like you're a busy lady. Well, I love what you're doing. I'm sure lots of people will love what you're doing. Through your journey, what is some wisdom you can offer people?
I think one of the biggest things that has come up for me is your mission stronger than your fear?
Oh, wow.
And that is come up over and over again. Like, whatever the thing is I'm afraid of, is that stronger? Am I afraid of it more than I believe in it? And
I
usually
love
it's a
that.
really like black and white answer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I mean, they can ask themselves that for anything, right? For the
Yeah.
most part. Yeah, I love that. Well, we appreciate you. I will put your website and your information in the description. Do not get mad at me if people message you on LinkedIn and you're like, got more crap to do. Like, it's not my problem.
I promise
Hopefully
I'm
that's a
happy.
problem, right? Like hopefully there's
Yeah.
so many people looking at the podcast and you get so many people reaching out to you, but maybe somebody will be able to help you with the raising of funds because I know that it's hard to make things like this happen without the money.
There's ways to get around it, but it takes a long time. What are you willing to do? And I'm willing to do a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for your work.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
If this story spoke to you, let's keep the healing going. Visit barbiemoreno.com for my online course, Awakening Your Worth in Healing Energy sessions, one-on-one coaching, and your free healing guide. Your next step is waiting.